Hi everyone, this is Karen Kalalomarat, one of the reporter of Chapter 10, Employee Satisfaction and Commitment. My topic outline are the importance in caring about the employees' attitudes, factors that cause employees to be satisfied with and committed to their jobs, measuring job satisfaction and commitment, consequences of dissatisfaction and other negative work attitudes. For my intended learning outcomes, first is learn ways to increase employee satisfaction and commitment. Second, understand the methods used to measure the job satisfaction. One factor related to job satisfaction and employee motivation is the extent to which employee perceive that they are being treated fairly. As we recall from the chapter 9, equity theory is based on the premise that our levels of job satisfaction and motivations are related to how fairly we believe we are treated in comparison with others. If we believe we are treated unfairly, we attempt to change our belief or behaviors until the situation appears to be fair. Ito daw ay nag-strike ng balance between sa employee input and output in a workplace. Kung ang employee is able to find his or her right balance, mag-lead ito sa or more productive the relationship with the management. For an example, if an employee learns that a peer doing exactly the same job as them is earning more money, then they may choose to do less work because it's creating fairness in their eyes. Research in equity has recently expanded into what the researchers call organizational justice. Ang organizational justice daw is focuses on how employees judge the behavior of the organization and how this behavior is related to employees' attitudes. In a simple term, it is the perceived fairness in the institution or a company. Ang organizational justice consists of three main forms: the distributive, the procedural, and interactional. First is distributive justice, or the perceive the fairness of the actual decisions made in an organization. Nangyayari ang distributive justice kung ang mga employees believe that outcomes are equitable. These outcomes are either tangible, such as pay, or intangible, such as positive feedback. If the employees believe that they are being paid or treated equally, then this results in distributive justice. For an example, person A got fired because of a violation. Is it right to fire person A, but in other hand, person B did had the same violation, but he or she was not fired? In distributive justice, you are questioning the decision. So, an employee got promoted that alam mong may mga employee na sobrang tagal na sa company wasn't promoted. In distributive justice, you are questioning of fairness in decisions made by the executives, boss, heads, ganon. The more bias daw in an organization, the lower their job satisfaction and commitment. Because there is no sense committing yourself in an organization who only implements selective justice. They only give justice to people who are close to the boss or the people in the inner circle. So there is no justice at all. After that, connected to the distributive justice is the procedural justice, or the perceived fairness in the methods in arriving at the decisions. If the one being questioned in distributive justice is the actual decision, right? Or the what. In procedural justice, you're questioning the how. So, for an example, narinig natin na ang person A got fired because na-caught siya na nag-steal in the manager's office. So, We're questioning is how are they able to prove that she stole something? How are they able to arrive at that decision that she needs got fired? Bakit siya tanggalin? If in the manual or the employee handbook says the punishment of stealing is 1 month suspension. So what procedural justice? You're questioning how did they arrive in that situation? Is the decision is fair? What are the methods that was used to arrive on that decision? Was there a due process? Para mas maintindihan, person A was promoted. What are the criteria used in promoting that person? We passed the exam. What was the grading system? Yan ang procedural justice. When we say interactional justice, the perceived fairness of the interpersonal treatment that the employees receive in an organization. So, we don't want have selective justice. You know that there is interactional justice if one person got punished while the other did not get punished. Why? Because the person who did not get punished is actually part in the inner circle of the boss, or she is the best friend of the boss in the company. So it is interactional injustice. Of course, we wish to have a company that will treat each employee that subordinates fairly for us to be committed, or for us to be happy of what we are doing. The more we exposed in biases and injustices our company, the less committed we become, and you have or we have tendency to look for another company. One of the greatest problems with the equity and justice theories is that despite their rational sense, they are difficult to implement. That is, based on equity and justice theories, the best way to keep employees satisfied would be to treat them all fairly, which would entail paying the most to those employees who contributed the most. It is difficult to implement for several reasons. First is the practicality. An organization certainly can control such variables such as hours work, and benefits, but it cannot easily control other variables such as how far an employee lives from work or the number of friends an employee makes on the job. Second reason that equity is difficult to achieve is that the employee's perception of inputs and outputs determines equity, not the actual inputs and outputs. For an example, two students of equal ability receive the same grade on an exam. One student knows that she studied 10 hours for the exam but never saw the other student in the library. Maka-feel siyag unfair kay nag-study siyag hard or more effort. Bakit pareha sila ng grado na hindi naman niya nakita na nag-study? Kasi ang hindi niya alam na ang isa ay nag-study pa mas dako pa na time sa iya while nagatrabaho. Mao na ang ibang perception sa ubang estudyante. Interactional justice can also be broken down into two types, the interpersonal and informational justice. When we say interpersonal justice, it is focuses on the way in which organizations treat employees with an emphasis on respect and courtesy. Informational justice naman focuses on whether employers provide adequate explanations to employees with an emphasis on timeliness, specificity, and truthfulness. Another factor that may influence job satisfaction and organizational commitment is the presence of chance for growth and challenge in each of an organization. just what everybody told us before. If we've been doing the same thing in quite some time, then there is tendency for us to get bored of what we are doing. Hence, we're looking more challenging task, or something that we must learn. So we can see the things here, like how this opportunity learn affect us. First, there is phenomenon called job rotation. Job rotation, employee given the same number of tasks to do at one time, but the task change from time to time. Ang job rotation helps to alleviate boredom by allowing an employee to change task. For an example, if an employee wields parts one day, assembles bumpers on another, and tightens screws on a third, the boredom caused by performing the same task every day should be reduced. Next is job enlargement. Employees are given more tasks to perform at the same, or in other words, we are adding new tasks to your job description. So at first, it may look terrifying because from now on, you to do more things, but actually in the long run, if done in the right way, this would lead higher job satisfaction. So for an case sa atong teacher, it was out of their comfort zone to conduct online classes because most of the teacher mga tigulang na, parang hindi na masyadong marunong sa gadgets or technology. They despise or hated online class before. But because the job enlargement, what happening right now, it is part of their job to enhance their online classroom. Sabi ko nga kanina, at first it is terrifying, and eventually they began to embrace the idea and look it as a new challenge, and allow them to grow, and then at their experiences, they can confidently say that they're experienced enough to handle the online class. So that's what job enlargement is. So you will do more tasks as part of your job. Job enlargement have two ways: the knowledge enlargement and task enlargement. Ang knowledge enlargement, employees are allowed to make more complex decisions. Ang task enlargement naman, employees are given more tasks of the same difficulty level per form. On the other hand, job enrichment refers to the enlargement. You are just given more tasks, but on job enrichment, you're given more responsibility over those tasks given to you. And you're given a freedom to decide, means that in simple terms, when we enrich a certain position, you're also empowering that person. And do we allow that person to decide? It means that the manager or supervisor may have a lesser control on the job because they trust that employee enough. They allow him or her to decide on its own. So going back of my example, an example of a job that highly enrich is the job of teaching. Because when you teach, most of the time, your supervisors are not there to monitor what you teach, or you are given free to execute what you wanted to do. And when you give freedom in your employee, they don't feel that they are micromanaged, and they don't feel they are controlled all the time. That bring happiness, that can bring something on the table. So that's it for job enrichment. So what do these processes do to help us grow? So I already told you a job rotation. Now that we learn job enlargement and job enrichment, what they do, that they attempt to satisfy self-actualization needs. Remember Maslow theory. This is the role of these three. It allows us to become a better individual. As we remember what actualizers do, um, ginagamit daw nila ang use their talents and they are on their full potential in order to be more talented and use the talent and to become a better person, then it is recommended that. At the same time, we will be experiencing the three: job rotation, enlargement, and enrichment. Magagamit natin to siya to help to become us a better employee and facing more challenging tasks in the future. Job characteristic model. Um, was discussed in Chapter 9. Hackman and Oldham, 1975 and 1976, theorized that enriched jobs are the most satisfying. Enriched jobs allow a variety of skills to be used, allow employees to complete an entire or process a loan application from start to finish, rather than parts of a task, involve tasks that have meaning or importance, allow employees to make decisions and provide feedback about performance. Next is job diagnostic survey, to measure the extent to which these characteristics are present in a given job. A measure of motivational components of a job as identified by the job characteristic model of Richard Hackman and U.S. organizational behaviorist Greg Oldham in 1947. The Job Diagnostic Survey is a self-report instrument in which employees' answers are used to score a job in terms of five core dimensions that are held to determine employee motivation, the skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedbacks. If the scores are low, a program of job enlargement or job enrichment may be recommended. Last is self-directed teams or quality circles. Final method for increasing employee self-actualization needs. Quality circles, employees meet as a group to discuss and make recommendations about work issues. In this chapter, we discuss many theories of job satisfaction. The question you must be asking, other than when does this chapter end, is how then do we satisfy employees? Unfortunately, the answer to this question is complex and depends on a variety of factors. We can, however, use the theories to design an organizational climate that is more conducive to motivation and satisfaction than is the typical climate. Individual difference theories say that each of us brings to a job an initial tendency to be satisfied with life and its various aspects, such as work. A person with a low tendency towards satisfaction might start a job with only 6 hypothetical satisfaction points. A person with a neutral tendency might start with 10 hypothetical points, and a person with high tendency might bring 14 points. Next, according to discrepancy theories, we will remain satisfied with our job if it meets our various needs, wants, expectations, and values. As discussed previously in the chapter, individuals vary greatly in their needs for such things as achievement, status, safety, and social contact. Thus, not every job can satisfy the needs of every employee during every period of his life. By being aware of employee needs, however, we can select the employees whose needs are consistent with the requirements and characteristics of the job. According to the intrinsic satisfaction theory and job characteristic theory, we will be more satisfied with our jobs if the tasks themselves are enjoyable to perform. What makes a task enjoyable varies across individuals. For some, working on a computer is fun, whereas for others, nothing could be more boring. Many people enjoy making decisions, solving conflicts, and seeing a project through from start to finish, whereas others don't. Overall satisfaction can be affected by our satisfaction with individual facets of the job. For an example, an incompetent boss, terrible coworkers, low pay, or limited opportunities for advancement can lessen overall job satisfaction. Even trivial things can lessen job satisfaction, um, like job in the vending machines. Never work and supplies such as paper and pens were often not available. These factors were irritants for most employees, enough to lessen job satisfaction, but certainly not enough to make any of us dissatisfied with the job. According to the social learning theory, we will be more satisfied if our coworkers are satisfied. If everyone else is winning and complaining, it is difficult to be the only person at work who loves his job. No matter how much we intrinsically like our work, equity and justice theories predict that we will become dissatisfied if ang rewards, punishments, and the social interactions are not given equitably. If you work harder than a coworker yet she receives or he receives a bigger raise, you are less likely to be satisfied even though money may not be the reason you are working. Measuring job satisfaction and commitment. This chapter has discussed several theories that seek to explain job satisfaction and commitment. But one important issue that remains is how an employee's level of job satisfaction or commitment is measured. Generally, job satisfaction is measured in one of two ways: the standard job satisfaction inventories or custom design satisfaction inventories. Commitment naman is usually measured through standard commitment inventories. Measures of job satisfaction. One of the first methods for measuring job satisfaction was developed by Kunin 1955, and it is called the Faces Scale. Although this scale is dali lang daw siyang gamitin, um, but it is no longer commonly administered, partly because kulang daw siya ng sufficient detail, lacks daw ng construct validity, and because ang ibang employee believe it is simple. 'Di ba pag face, mga more on face, 'di ba yung face validity, siya ang weakest sa lahat ng na validity na ginagamit. Parang dito din sa job satisfaction, siya din ang pinaka-simple at parang easy to use na scale. Next is the Job Descriptive Index or JDI. The Job Descriptive Index was developed by Smith, Kandal, and Holland 1969 and consists of a series of job-related adjectives and statements that are rated by employees. The scales yield score on 5 dimensions of job satisfaction, supervision, pay, promotional opportunities, coworkers, and the work itself. Makikita nyo itong mga scale na to sa libro. Next is a similar measure of job satisfaction is the Minnesota Satisfaction Questionnaire, which was developed by Weiss, Davis, England, and Lofquist 1967. The Minnesota Satisfaction Questionnaire contains 100 items that yield score on 20 scales. To get the experience taking a satisfaction inventory, complete the short form of the Minnesota Satisfaction Questionnaire. Makikita din yun sa sa libro sa PDF. Next is job in general scale. It is very useful when organization wants to measure the overall level of job satisfaction rather than specific aspects. And Nagy 1996 criticized many of the standard measures of job satisfaction because these measures asked only if employees are satisfied with a particular aspect of their job, but not how important the job aspect is to them. Ito daw mga measures na ginabanggit ko kanina na measuring a job satisfaction, um, only ito lang ay parang ina-measure lang yung particular aspect of their job, hindi yung important the job aspect is to them para sa kanila. Measuring of commitment. Most measures of organizational commitment are relatively short and top aspects, similar to the three types of commitment mentioned previously sa topic earlier, the affective commitment, continuance commitment, and normative commitment. Perhaps the most commonly used measure of organizational commitment is the developed by Allen and Mayer 1990. The Allen and Mayer survey has 24 items, each 8 each of the three factors of affective, continuance, and normative commitment. 8 questions sa affective, sa continuance, and normative. There are examples of questions here. The other measures of commitment include the Organizational Commitment Questionnaire, a 15-item questionnaire developed by Moday, Steers, and Porter 1979 to measure the three commitment factors: acceptance of the organization's values and goals, willingness to work to help the organization, and a desire to remain with the organization. Although the question's top three factors, most people using the scale combine the factors to yield one overall commitment score from Kakmar, Carlson, and Breimer 1999. Next is the Organizational Commitment Scale, a 9-item survey developed by Balfour and Wishler 1996 that measures three aspects of commitment: identification, exchange, and affiliation. Sample questions include I felt like a part of the family at this organization, and what this organization stands for important to me. Most of the research on job satisfaction kay ginakandak siya sa one or more na standard inventories. Kadalasan ng mga organizations top their employees' level of job satisfaction by using the custom design inventories. Ang advantage nito is the organization can ask employees questions specific to their organization. Example, a local agency recently restructured many of its job and wanted to top how satisfied its employee were with the changes. Para malaman nila ito, nag-hire sila ng consultant who design questions para specifically top employee thoughts and feelings para sa mga changes na nabago. And that's the end of my reporting. Thank you.